Today, I'm diving into one of the core teachings that has the potential to completely shift how you see reality. And once you really understand this, not just at a surface level, but in its deeper scientific and philosophical context, it becomes very difficult to go back to seeing the world the same way. So stay with me all the way through this. Because by the end of this conversation, you'll have a stronger framework for understanding awareness, perception, and how reality is actually experienced. And that foundation is central to the work I teach around identity, alignment, and conscious living. Today, I'm unpacking one of the most important scientific discoveries ever recorded, the double slit experiment. This single experiment didn't just advance physics, it fundamentally challenged how reality itself was understood. It opened the door to quantum mechanics, and it sparked an ongoing conversation about observation, awareness, and the nature of experience itself. So let me start with the actual facts. The double slit experiment was first conducted in 1801 by British physicist Thomas Young. At that time, scientists were debating a foundational question: is light made of particles or waves? Isaac Newton's particle theory dominated physics. Young decided to test it directly. He projected light through a barrier with two extremely narrow slits cut into it. Behind that barrier sat a screen designed to record where the light landed. If light behaved purely like particles, like tiny projectiles, two bright bands should have appeared on the screen. But that's not what happened. Instead, the screen showed an interference pattern, alternating light and dark bands that only occur when waves overlap, like ripples crossing on water. That discovery changed physics. It demonstrated that light behaves like a wave. Fast forward into the early 20th century, when quantum mechanics began emerging. Physicists repeated the experiment using electrons, actual matter particles. Same setup, same expectation. And the results became even more extraordinary. Even when electrons were fired one at a time, an interference pattern still formed, which suggested each electron wasn't simply choosing one path. Instead, it behaved as a probability wave, what quantum physics calls superposition, existing in multiple potential states until interaction occurred. This behavior is mathematically described by Schrödinger's wave equation, introduced in 1926. Then came the defining moment. When detectors were placed at the slits to measure which path the electron took, the interference pattern disappeared. Two distinct bands appeared instead: particle behavior. In quantum physics, this shift is called wave function collapse, caused not by thought or belief, but by measurement physically interacting with the system. That's established, repeatable quantum mechanics. And this is where the conversation begins to expand, because at the quantum level, interaction influences outcome. And once that principle is understood scientifically, it naturally opens a deeper conversation about awareness, perception, identity, and lived human experience. That's where I'm taking this next. When you look at that experiment, where observation appears to influence how possibility becomes defined, it naturally raises a bigger question. Because while most of us aren't observing particles in a lab, we are constantly observing our own lives, our circumstances, our expectations, our thoughts, our interpretations. And over time, whatever consistently holds our attention often starts to feel more solid, more central, more real in our experience. What's fascinating is that this idea isn't limited to physics. You see reflections of it across human wisdom traditions. Religious teachings often speak about inner thought shaping outward life. Philosophical traditions emphasize disciplined awareness. Modern personal development language talks about focus directing energy. Different language, but a remarkably consistent insight. Part of what I explore in my work is how these perspectives intersect. Across science, spirituality, philosophy, and lived experience, there are moments where the message begins to harmonize rather than compete. Quantum physics adds an interesting layer here. It doesn't replace faith or spiritual tradition, but for many people, it offers a kind of observable reference point, a reminder that awareness, energy, and perception may be more interconnected than we once assumed. That realization can be grounding, because it suggests awareness isn't just something we passively experience. It participates in how we interpret, respond to, and ultimately live our reality. Across cultures, belief systems, and scientific exploration, a similar theme keeps surfacing. Where attention stabilizes, experience often follows. And once you begin noticing that pattern in your own life, the conversation shifts from theory to intentional living. If observation can collapse possibility into outcome at the quantum level, then what do you think your constant thoughts, words, and focus are doing in your everyday life? Because whether you realize it or not, You are always observing something: your circumstances, your identity, your expectations, your fears, your potential, and what you consistently observe, you begin to reinforce. Across spiritual traditions, the message has always been clear: as a person thinks within, so they become. Guard your thoughts. Be mindful of what you speak. Intention precedes action. Where attention goes, energy flows. Different language, same principle. Here's what I teach with clarity: your awareness shapes your experience. Your dominant thoughts influence your decisions. Your decisions shape your life. You are not just reacting to reality, you are participating in it. And it starts with observation. When you become aware of what you're focusing on, you gain the power to redirect it. When you redirect attention, you change decisions. When decisions change consistently, your life moves differently. So this week, experiment with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to what you're feeding emotionally. Pay attention to the conversations you allow internally and externally. Remove the noise, reduce the negativity, become intentional about what you observe. Because awareness is where authorship begins. That's what quantum identity alignment is about: aligning your thoughts, your focus, and your actions so they're working together. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment telling me what shifted for you. For deeper teachings and practical tools, visit quantumiddle.com. I'm David Knox, the architect, and this is Quantum Identity Alignment.